Hey, how's it going everyone? Kermode here. Welcome to another tutorial by Cymatics. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you guys 5 music theory hacks inside of Ableton. I struggle a lot with theory, and I just haven't had a chance to put the time in to really study theory, so I like to use a few little cheats in Ableton just to make my life a bit easier. Now, this isn't to say you shouldn't be learning music theory, but while you're studying in your spare time, these are some cool cheats to make you sound better at music theory than you are. Now, to put these cheats into practice, obviously you're going to need sounds to practice with, so make sure to go grab our free Ableton starter pack in the description of this video, and while you're down there, don't forget to hit subscribe and hit that like button. So we've got 5 really cool tips to cover. Without further ado, let's get going. So for our first tip here, it's going to be locking to a chord progression. What I mean by this is making sure that all your melodies that you write stay within a specific chord progression, because then you know they're going to sound right. Now, obviously you can write your own chord progression, or you can even grab one of our Cymatics chord progressions that we give out in our free MIDI packs. So I'm just going to grab one of those for time's sake. So I have this chord progression here. And I want to start the first melody of my song. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this out and turn off the original. And we're going to double click this MIDI clip, pop it open. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select everything with Command A and deactivate everything with 0. So now we have the chord progression entirely grayed out. This means that you're not going to hear it, but you are still going to be able to overlay MIDI with it and see and use it as a reference. So what we can do is we can start to just place MIDI notes in that chord progression and write something. And notice I'm not thinking too much about it because I have this nice set of guidelines here that I can easily lock to just like that. And don't be afraid as well to use shift up and down to jump octaves within that chord progression, because you still know it's the same note that's being used in the chord progression. You're just using it in a different octave. So it is going to be okay to do that as well. There we go, and we would do something along those lines, and we would probably vary it with the second loop around of that chord progression. Probably something along the lines of this. And now we know it's guaranteed going to work with our chord progression here. And if you do that with a ton of elements in your track, the bass line is working completely within that chord progression, the top melody, a different melody, whatever it is, you know they're all going to kind of glue together and work. You don't have to think about it, which, again, myself who doesn't know music theory, that's one of my fears is, does this harmonically work with the other elements? This way, you're kind of safe and you're locked to that chord progression. So the next technique is going to be using the fold function inside of Ableton, and what this will allow us to do is it will allow us to lock to a key so we don't have to think about what notes and calculate what notes to use every single time. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a blank MIDI clip here, and then let's say, for example, for simplicity's sake, we're writing in C major. What you would do is you would input all the notes in the key of the song that you want to use, and I would say about 1 octave's range. And then what you want to do is just duplicate it, go shift up to move in an octave and shift down, so you have 3 octaves to work with. Then what you're going to do is you're going to slide it off grid, and you're going to hit this fold button here, and now we can close things off right there, and we're locked completely to our key there, and we have 3 octaves to work with. You could do this with every octave range if you wanted. But this has allowed us to just lock our MIDI clip to a specific key, so we don't even have to think about it. Now we can write it, and we can copy and paste this little clip box right here, this MIDI clip, anywhere in our session, so you just have it. And the cool thing is too, if you do this for a specific key, and if you do it for all keys, you can just drag them into your library. So when you start a song, if you're writing an E minor, you just drag in the E minor clip, and you use that on all your MIDI clips as your foundation, so you know you're always locked to a key. The next technique is taking advantage of Ableton's MIDI effects, and specifically the Scale plugin. The Scale plugin has a couple really nice presets in here that I want to recommend to you guys. And if we open up the Scale plugin presets here, it's the C minor and C major scale presets. Now what these allow you to do is drag them on and then pick a bass note that isn't C, but now you're in the minor key of that. So let's say we pick a bass of F, it's the C minor preset. We're now writing in F minor. So no matter what notes I hit across my keyboard, it's going to be in the scale of F minor, which is really, really handy. Now that in combination with the Chord plugin presets, you can write cool chord progressions that will always lock to a key. So just try out different presets. And you know it's always going to be locked to that F minor scale, so it doesn't matter what sort of chord input you're putting in. You can just pick anything, drop it in, and play it, and you have nothing to worry about. A really super useful technique with really great results, and don't even be afraid to try out ones besides the C major and C minor presets. There are some really cool ones in here, such as the Phrygian dominant scale, which sounds very Egyptian, for example. The next one is a really useful one, and that's the ability to record out MIDI effects after the MIDI effects, and specifically the arpeggiator. So I went back to our chord progression that I had previously. And let's say, for example, I actually wanted to arpeggiate this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tweak the arpeggiator till I have a setting that I like. So I have this here. Which is cool, but there's something that could be better about it, and I find with Ableton's arpeggiator specifically, I end up a little bit limited by what I can do with it compared to something such as Cthulhu. So what I want to do is be able to actually edit that melody. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new MIDI track here, and we're going to select the input from track 2 here, and we're going to arm it, and we're going to hit record. And now I can apply a sound to that. And the nice thing is we can now turn off, say, the arpeggiator on here, turn off the input on this thing, and now we can write our own arpeggiation with this. We can manipulate it further. And I find this just really nice because with the arpeggiator, it might have taken a lot of automation and a lot of things like that to get the ideas right. But what we can do is use the arpeggiator to get the bass idea, and then we can further edit it like this. So you get the idea. It's really useful to be able to record out the MIDI from certain MIDI effects, and this is applicable to the other MIDI effects as well. So if you were using the scale plugin, if you were using the chord plugin, and you were inputting single notes and you wish you could edit that further, you can record that out. So you have the MIDI, drop it back on your original sound, and edit it further. And the last tip here is taking advantage of Ableton's ability to convert things to melodies and harmonies. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my Cymatics samples here, and I'm going to find a guitar sample or some sort of harmonic sample as a base for my chord progression. So let me find that. And I want to use this as the chord progression for my song. So all we're going to do is we're going to write this to convert it to harmony. And then with this convert to harmony, we're going to take this out. Now, Ableton does kind of do an abysmal job, and it might sound kind of weird at first. But what you can do is you can easily go in and edit this further now and just take out the things that don't really sound good, and obviously quantize. And if you even want to save time, you could say, for example, use a scale plugin to actually put it in a new key. So you could actually take the scale plugin and put this in, say, F minor. And again, it's so easy just to quantize things and put things into time and just make it a little nicer. I'm not going to spend the time editing it because it'll take a few minutes and I don't want to waste your time. But obviously from here, this could start to generate a lot of ideas, and you could push this to a full chord progression. So that's a really cool way to speed up the chord writing process. So there we go, guys. That's 5 ways you could sort of cheat and hack music theory in Ableton. Obviously, you should go and learn music theory on your own. I can't recommend that enough. But in the meantime, you have a few ways that you can kind of make yourself sound better than you are. And I really like using these techniques. And sometimes this can just speed up my workflow by having these techniques. So thanks again, guys. I'm Cymatics. We're Cymatics, and I'll be back soon with another tutorial. Peace.